Scott for Scots here. Do you hear that? Bring the mic in close. That's not how the grass should sound. There's weeds everywhere in this lawn. It's time to take action with Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action. It gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and feeds your lawn so it keeps growing strong. Ah, much better.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed, or your money back.
Feed your lawn. Feed it.
This episode is sponsored by State Farm. Choices are great. Like with your podcasts, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And State Farm believes insurance should work the same way. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you get the coverage you want at an affordable price and a policy that helps cover what you value most. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com today to create your State Farm Personal Price Plan. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I'm your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podaman, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Audible, Stitcher, Double Twist, and I'm sure some others as well. Thank you once again for downloading and listening to the show. It is a great pleasure to be joining you once again today. Luckily, not much of a delay since the last episode. Sometimes after the draft review, it could be months. But there's just been enough news, enough of a mailbag. I got to get online. I got to get on, and I got to start another Purple Mafia show to talk to you. Kind of emptying the mailbag and getting caught up with the news rather than having to get caught up with it all like months from now and be like, oh yeah, and by the way, Jerry Burns died back in May. Yeah, that wouldn't be very nice. So we got to talk about Jerry Burns today. Obviously, one of the most interesting coaches of all time. A character, this and that. That's the number one word you could say, especially when you listen to sound bites like this.
What the hell can you do?
Doesn't get much better than that. Of course, that was from the big rant. Like, what the hell can you do? Because he was saying last week he ran for 65 yards. Or like he returned a ball for 65 yards. This week he fumbles the ball. What the hell can you do? And it is kind of like that at the workplace sometimes. Last week we made record numbers. This week 4 people called in. What the hell can you do? It is kind of like that. You just feel helpless sometimes. I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's easier to relate to a guy like that than to certain people that think they're up on cloud 9, think they're God, and look at all my rings. I'm the king of kings, and I've got the best offense ever. I've won 20 national championships. Yeah, whatever. We're happy for you. You know, the Nick Sabans of the world. You know, they're on top of the world. They're on cloud 9, 24 hours a day. And then you get guys like that. Like, what the hell can you do? You know, give us a break here, damn it. You know, stop trashing us in the newspaper. Stop booing us. You know, when you show our pictures, stuff like that. So show our pictures on the Jumbotron, this and that. You know, it is what it is. It was an entertaining bit. Luckily for Jerry Burns, unlike many other Vikings coaches and players over the years, he got multiple Super Bowl rings, as the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi. But, thanks Jerry. But no, yep, he was part of the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II victory. So it's a little bit easier to like those teams, I guess, because it's so far in the past. The Vikings were just barely getting on the map at that stage. So it is what it is. I don't think the Vikings even made the playoffs yet. And then next thing you know, the Vikings look extremely promising, and the Packers didn't. This and that. But, of course, he joined Bud Grant as the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings and was there for 18 years as offensive coordinator. That kind of thing just doesn't happen anymore. Head coach and coordinator for 18 years. It just doesn't happen. 68 to 85, and he did not get hired as the head coach of the Vikings in 84, which disappointed Bud Grant and, kind of heartbroke Mr. Jerry Burns when the Vikings went with Les Steckel. They went 3-13 that year, and then Bud Grant took over in 85. Jerry Burns took over in 1986, and there you go. It's crazy to think he was only the 4th head coach of the Vikings at the time. The Vikings had already been around since 61, and one of the coaches had lasted for a year. Just think about that. Isn't that the darndest thing? Where obviously the third head coach lasted for quite a while, 68 to 85, ultimately. And again, 84, he didn't coach. He had retired and then returned. So yes, Bud Grant did coach in the Metrodome. Obviously, Jerry Burns was, offensive coordinator in both places, in both stadiums. Lived all the way up to May 12th, 2021 at age 94. And Bud Grant also turned 94 this past week. So literally not only from the same generation, but born the same year. Bud Grant born in Wisconsin, and Mr. Jerry Burns born in Detroit, Michigan. Pretty cool. Very entertaining guy, and of course coached the Iowa Hawkeyes, who have of course kicked the Gophers' butts over many, 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 many years. Coached the Iowa Hawkeyes in the 60s before he joined the Minnesota Vikings staff. Pardon me about this. I didn't even turn this down, which I apologize. Isn't that just part of the, that's just the luck of the draw there. 61 to 65 did Jerry Burns coach. 5-4 in his first year, and it was all downhill from there. Yet they tied for 7th place for some reason, because they were only 2-4 in the conference. That's a pretty short schedule there. Only 9 games total, and only 6 games in the Big Ten Conference back in the mid-60s there. 5-4 overall, tied for 7th. 4-5 at 62, tied for 5th because they were 3-3. 3-3-2. They tied twice in 1963. Wow. That was the year Kennedy, of course, was assassinated in November, and Michael Jordan was born in February. Historical year in both senses, I suppose. 2-3-1 in the conference in 1963. Only 3-6, so the schedule had increased. In that case, 3-6 and 64, only 1-5 in the conference. 1965, not a good year. 1-9 overall, 0-7 in the Big Ten Conference. Unfortunately, only 16-27-2 overall, 8-22-1 with, in the conference. Not a very good record as the Iowa head coach. Unfortunately, much better with the Minnesota Vikings later on. Must not have been a very well. Just must not have been all that great of a program, but unfortunately that kind of falls on everybody after a 5-year period. It's unfortunate, and I'm not trying to trash anybody. It just wasn't a good run, I guess, and it certainly didn't end well. He probably was cursing his head off at that stage, but 9-9 a boo-boo. I won a Super Bowl with the Packers in the next year, so the Packers. Bart Starr, yes, sorry. That was really something, wasn't it? Oh, man. Minnesota Vikings head coach. This is where the importance comes in, though, of course, again, offensive coordinator. He was the same guy. They said he basically didn't change at all. All the people around him over the years say he didn't change at all. And that's cool. He was still the same kind of player's coach, kind of just a cool guy with a bad mouth, basically. That's basically what he was. And he was kind of, just kind of on the fly. He'd say the most odd things sometimes. Well, the offense, just get out there and do it. He'd be like that. When Tommy Kramer was asking him, so what are we going to do next? That's when he joined Dan Barrero, Tommy Kramer, that is. So what are we going to do? You're the offensive coordinator. And he's like, I don't know. You go out there and make your own decision. You know the offense. It's like, what the hell? It's kind of funny, but I guess that's Jerry Burns. I guess it is. 9-7, second place in the Central, but not good enough to make the postseason in '86. Tommy Kramer got hurt that year. And a lot of people will swear that the 1986 Vikings could have won the Super Bowl. They were that good. Tommy Kramer was actually voted in as the starting quarterback in the Pro Bowl. He was that good in '86. A lot of people say he could have been like a superstar, but then he got hurt, and he was never really the same after that, was Tommy Kramer. And, of course, alcoholism also didn't help Tommy Kramer's career as things went forward. A freaking shame. 1986, the Vikings could have been spectacular. It's also a shame I didn't really get to see many of these games. I saw a little bit here and there during the Jerry Burns era, but I didn't become a full-time Viking fan until '92, which I'm ashamed to say. At age 41, going on 42 in July, I'm ashamed to say I didn't become a full-time Viking fan until '92, but at least that's still about 30 years now. Yeah, it is 30 years. 30 years total, 30 seasons as a Viking fan. But, man, I wish I got to see that era, because I would have grown up with it right there. That would have been my early years as a kid, kind of basically into my teens in '91. Bummer, man. Bummer. 8-7 record, of course, strike-shortened season. And the replacement team apparently the Vikings had was one of the worst of all, in fact, if not the worst. Vikings went 0-3 during that stretch. They probably would have had a significantly better record. Luckily, still lucky enough to make the postseason, the Minnesota Vikings. One whole game was completely lost, and 3 games also to, as obviously you see, there's only 15 games on the schedule that year, and 3 games were literally lost on the field because the replacement players were really bad for the Vikings compared to other teams. That kind of thing would never happen today. Replacement players. Obviously, that 86 excellence had moved on into 87. It's a damn shame that Kramer got hurt, but Wade Wilson did a hell of a job. Vikings go all the way to the NFC Championship game under Jerry, of course, again, beating the 49ers. First, we whooped on the Saints, then we beat the 49ers in the next round. That was great. Go to the conference final, and it was just the ball was thrown a little low, a little bit off. It would have been a difficult play for Darren Nelson, but many would believe he still could have caught it if he just was ready for it, and he didn't. Would have tied the game, wouldn't have given the Vikings the game, but the Vikings would have beaten Denver for sure in that Super Bowl because Washington just rolled all over them, considering how close the Vikings were on the road to beating the Washington Redskins, who went on to win that Super Bowl easily in 1987. Would have been the greatest year in sports history for Minnesota. The Minnesota Twins end the drought of championships in this town because there were basically 0 unless you counted the Lakers. Obviously, you want to count the Lakers, but they had moved to Los Angeles about 26 years earlier. That's a long time. 26 years earlier, 1961 or 60-61, they moved to Los Angeles. And then the Vikings, who started in that year, 61, obviously hadn't won a Super Bowl yet. And then you win with the Vikings and the Twins. I mean, this town would have been turned upside down. And I remember that feeling. It was like the Vikings were catching on the momentum from the 87 Twins. Like, oh my God, here we go. NFC Championship game. You beat the Redskins, you probably win the Super Bowl. And it just didn't frickin' happen. It just didn't frickin' happen. I still remember the players hanging their heads walking off the field because I did see that. Not the whole game because I was kind of a young kid and stuff, but at that stage. But it was still very disappointing and sad. Vikings were just one play away from, at least tying it up. Maybe you go for 2, or you get lucky, you win it in overtime, and then you beat the Redskins and the Broncos and win a championship. But unfortunately, that just wasn't meant to be. You have a better record the next year. Of course, not a better team, just a better record. You play the 49ers again, and it was kind of like the last couple times the Vikings played the 49ers in the playoffs. It just was bad. It's just bad. When Garoppolo and Co. and that great defense beat the crap out of us a couple of years ago in the divisional round. And, of course, back in 1997, when that club with Steve Young and Co. crushed the Vikings in the postseason as well. Even worse, you could argue, in 89. Just an absolute demolition derby. 88, 49ers won the Super Bowl. 89, 49ers won the Super Bowl. Both divisional games crushed the Vikings. And unfortunately, Jerry Burns wouldn't get another crack at a Super Bowl chance or NFC Championship, unfortunately. But they did get to the conference final and both times around. The 89 Vikings actually had a first-round bye. That still lost to the 49ers. Damn, in 89. Vikings had won a playoff game in 87 and 88, both beating the Saints, which is kind of cool. 1990, big drop-off, 6-10, last place, 8-8 record in 91, and then he retired as a head coach. He was already an older guy, considering he'd been an offensive coordinator for 18 bleeping years. Unbelievable. Even for Les frickin' Steckel, he was the offensive coordinator. I'm sure that was weird. It's just back in the day. Les Steckel, you'd think he'd bring in his own staff, but he didn't. Jerry Burns, offensive coordinator. It is what it is, but it's crazy to imagine what could have happened there. Crazy story. It was just a different time. I mean, just like Bob Snelker, as long as I'm in this effing job, Bob Snelker will be the offensive coach. That just kind of doesn't exist anymore. If somebody's not good, they're disappointing, sometimes you have to make the move. It's just a different era, man. Just a different era. Like the offensive coordinator, that's Jerry Burns, period. During the whole Bud Grant era. The whole Jerry Burns era. Bob Snelker, offensive coordinator. It's just crazy. That's just how it was. And I guess as years went by, it's like, hey, it's like there was going to be a divide when it came to that kind of thing. No matter what you thought about Snelker, and it's not like he was a bad offensive coordinator. He wasn't, but he probably could have been better. This and that. You probably could have gotten someone better, especially in those later years. But 89, things were starting to get a little frustrating. Vikings won some games, but clearly things were starting to drop off a bit. Some of the great players, the injuries and this and that. Luckily, Dennis Green inherited a damn good defense at very least. Some of those older guys were still hanging around. Some of those excellent offensive linemen were still hanging around. You had Chris Dolman and you had Randall McDaniel, Gary Zimmerman, guys like that. still hanging around from the Burnsy era, obviously. And that was a nice benefit for Dennis Green to win the division back in '92. But because he was another offensive coordinator who had won a ring with the San Francisco 49ers, apparently. Mike Holmgren had also won a Super Bowl with the 49ers as offensive coordinator. Dennis Green was too busy coaching Stanford the year before that. So it's just kind of cool how that turns out. Or actually, no, it was the other way around. Dennis Green had moved on to Stanford. What am I talking about? Dennis Green had moved on to Stanford, and Holmgren won in '89, the offensive coordinator job, won a Super Bowl, and then he went on to coach the Packers later on. It's just crazy. Holmgren and Green both came from the, gosh, it's just crazy. Came from the Bill Walsh / George Seifert coaching tree. Just unfreaking real. And then again, you look at the '92 Packers coaching staff, it was crazy. Why am I going off in that? I have no idea. Burns, again, he was part of the coaching tree of Vince Lombardi. Isn't that just the darndest thing when you think about it? Too bad he couldn't coach the Vikings to a Super Bowl championship, but he would coach the Vikings in 4. To think, Jerry Burns was offensive coordinator in 6 Super Bowls. It's freaking crazy. 2-4 record, unfortunately, because the Vikings couldn't bring home a single one. Would have gotten Jerry Burns to 500 in the Super Bowl. And then we would have felt a little better, but unfortunately we didn't. We won the division back in old '81 in the Met Center Stadium, whatever we call it. I don't know what the hell. That sounds about like Jerry Burns back then. I don't know what the hell, squadron left, squadron fly. You just try to get something, some damn thing. Yep, trying to make some kind of play. A great play, defensive PI. That kind of thing. Anything. Lucky play, great play, whatever it was. But Jerry Burns, gone but not forgotten. Absolutely fantastic. Sounds like everybody loved him, really. As long as you can put up with the language, it is what it is. It was more just, it probably just made you laugh a little bit, even back then. Because people were quite different back then, and you'll just never get that again. Some of us try to be characters in the workplace, but everyone's too stiff and too stuck in their own world, and they're stuck on their gosh darn cell phones 24/7. You can't even hope for that kind of personality anymore. And if you try to even create that kind of personality within yourself, nobody's listening because they're too busy on their phone. What a shame. What a society now. What a bummer. Who wouldn't go back to back then in a heartbeat? And anybody that lived back then wouldn't. I mean, how could you not want to go back? Tell me, how could you not? You love the convenience of the phone, being able to check your bank account, maybe trade a stock or a cryptocurrency or something like that. Just speaking as an adult rather than just playing frickin' Pokemon or something ridiculous like that. How can you not want to go back? Seriously. Or watching a game on your device. That would have been nice. It would have been nice to watch. If it had to be standard def, it's standard def on your phone in 1986, 1987. The NFC Championship game on your smartphone in 1987. Yeah, unfortunately, catch the damn ball, but maybe it was thrown a little low into the side there, a little bit off. It wasn't a perfect play, and you can't expect a perfect play. That's real life. What the hell can you do? Overall coaching record for the Vikings, in Jerry Burns' case, again, he coached for 6 total seasons for the Vikes. 52-43, winning percentage of .547, and he was 500 in the postseason, 3-3, which again, if the Vikings would have won one Super Bowl, he would have had that kind of record in Super Bowls as an offensive coordinator, which would have been nice. But hey, at least he got 2 rings out of it, I guess. I don't know. Bud Grant sure as hell didn't like Vince Lombardi. It doesn't sound like Jerry Burns minded him too much, but Bud Grant called him a jerk on, I forget if that was on the Paul Allen show. He's like, yeah, he was a jerk. His own wife hated him. He said something like that. And Bud Grant is such a gentle guy. It was surprising hearing him talk like that, but it was kind of funny. Kind of funny to hear that. Oh, Jerry. As they were getting older and older, you just knew eventually one of these days this was going to happen. Just like Sid Hartman back in October. You just kind of, October 2020, you just knew the news would come out one day that he's passed away. And gosh darn it, it's just how it goes. 94 though. 94, long life. A survivor, everything. To have the ailments he had with cancer and such for as long as he did to survive to 94, extremely impressive. Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and quite the appropriate place, I suppose, for him to be living at the time. when you think about it, for all those years, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I learned something new today, by the way, as I kind of venture, Vikings, and where I currently live in Golden Valley, Minnesota. And actually, I was born here too. It's my hometown. Lived in at least 2 other cities since, but again came back, which is cool. Interesting thought here. Golden Valley High School, which was started in the 50s, and their team name was the Vikings, the Golden Valley Vikings, but they look like the Golden Gophers, maroon and gold. That's kind of the Golden Valley colors, I guess. And then when finances were just dropping off the face of the earth in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, they needed to kind of move on, unfortunately, and basically the school became either Hopkins, Robbinsdale, or Armstrong for this area. Again, this is a local conversation, sorry. And then it came down to who was going to buy the facility, the school area and everything, the school and the land and all that stuff. The Breck School ended up taking over, but guess who the other candidate was? The Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings would have been the Golden Valley Vikings too. Not really, but you get the idea. It would have been a place for training camp and stuff like that. Wouldn't that have been something? It could have been like a training camp or kind of like a headquarters. The Minnesota Vikings could have been right down the street from where I grew up. Glenwood Avenue and all that. Glenwood Avenue. I grew up on South Meadow Lane. And they're just like on Ottawa, which is like about 3 blocks down Glenwood Avenue. Whoa. I would have been able to be within walking distance where the Vikings could have been maybe working out and such. Maybe that would have been like their Eden Prairie facility. Isn't that the darndest thing? It's just something I learned today when I was going through the history of Golden Valley. So, thought you'd like to know that, a little bit of information. I would have grown up very close to the Vikings. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So, I don't know, just a little tidbit of trivial information, but it's still Vikings related. Let's move back into the mailbag here and such. Let's get to the Facebook page. Actually, let's go to Twitter first. Apologize for this. Again, this will be a 1-segment shot because that's just how we're going to do it today. Not sure if there's a whole lot of response on Twitter, but at Purple Mafia Show, I do believe Mr. Dave Martin said something. This is one I didn't have as ready as I would have liked. Yeah, 'cause some of these are like from other shows, unfortunately. Like Timberwolves Explosion is kind of popping up. I did a show on that very recently. Check that out. A couple of shows very recently. Brave the Wild. Keep up with that as well because of Minnesota Wild are in the postseason. We'll see how that turns out. Mad Martin was saying, R.I.P. Jerry, sad day. And Ben Johnson, coach of the Golden Gophers basketball club, says R.I.P. to a legend. Yep. So, where is the most recent stuff for Purple Mafia? I don't know if there's any mentions anytime recently. And I don't see the retweets either. I keep moving. Because obviously it's been a little while since the last show. About a month, right? Yep, late. There it is. Gerald String on the Twitter account. Draft Review 2021, episode 343. This is, of course, episode 344. Thank you so much, Gerald, for the retweet. Sam Gupta out of California also retweeting the most recent show. Sam Gupta, Malcolm McSween retweeting it. Yep, Hall of Fame. Yep, and here we go. Blackspace, most likely Sebastian Barton. Yes, he's unconfirmed on it, but it's Sebastian Barton. Just read between the lines. It is. And Hall of Fame listener, Blackspace. Let's get this intro right. Okay, I apologize. Hall of Fame listener, Blackspace. Purple Mafia Hall of Famer, Blackspace. Okay, so you probably just want to keep it to Blackspace instead of something else. He says Garrisol gave up 1 sack and 3 pressures in his last 215 college football snaps. Isn't that something? Yep, good fact you brought up there. Blackspace. I almost said some different name there. And Blackspace again says, hey, Purple Mafia Show, the TE the Vikings took, the tight end the Vikings took, the NCAA didn't allow Division II to play at all in the fall. Okay, yeah. Got it. So that's why he couldn't play. Yep. I remember reading that at the time from you, and I looked that up as well. I apologize for my ignorance on that. And he looks like an interesting pick, to be quite honest. And again, he was Division II, yes. Sebastian says, I called him Sebastian. Again, Blackspace says, listening now, hard to believe it's been 8 to 9 years since I joined for a few episodes. Yeah, again, read between the lines and who that is. It hasn't been that long since you joined, though. At least 2016, because we talked about Laquan Treadwell as a draft pick, and we were not all that excited about it. I remember that, but that is a while ago. I was living in Brooklyn Park already by then. But no, I understand. It's been too long, and got to get you on again. Yep. Tanae Brown says, Tanae Brown and Malcolm McSween. Tanae Brown out of New Zealand, Malcolm McSween out of California. Also kind enough to retweet the most recent episode. And again, apologize for my ignorance on the tight end the Vikings took. That would be Zach Davidson. Yep, Zach Davidson. That's who I thought it was. I was like, just wanted to make damn sure. And all of them have signed now. Central Missouri is where he came from. Again, pretty interesting pick. He sounds like a pretty cool guy as well. Sounded very cool. Mike Hughes has been traded by the Minnesota Vikings to the Kansas City Chiefs. So we might wind up with the Kansas City Chiefs cornerback as a free agent here coming up. We'll talk about him very shortly. 6th round pick for 2022. Mike Hughes, the Vikings officially say that's enough. We're done with this. But the Christian Darrell, Cameron Bynum, the cornerback we took. Amir Smith-Marset, wide receiver, Vikings. Yep, he was a draft pick. All 4-year contracts, Zach Davidson. Jalen Twyman, defensive tackle. That's an extremely interesting pick, in my opinion. That's the one I was like, that's an interesting one. Kenny Ngwawu, the wide receiver, or excuse me, the running back also. Both the running back and the wide receiver are special teams possibilities as well. They can make things quite interesting. Curtis Riley wound up going to Tampa Bay as of the 17th of May. Tay Hayes, that's a cool name, to Arizona. Perry Nickerson, these are all like, guys that were kind of on the, you know what I mean, like practice squad or not even at that stage yet type of players. At this stage, Perry Nickerson has gone to the Packers. Evan K. Yeah, that's because it looks like Wally Zerbiak mixed with AJ Przinsky or something like that mixed. A couple of Minnesota athletes with some strange names. AJ Przinsky and Doug Minkiewicz, guys like that. Minkiewicz, spell that one for me. Please spell that one for me. Let's just say Evan K., a tackle assigned to Atlanta. Nope, we actually got these guys. Perry Nick, well, not all of them. The Arizona and Tampa, they were 2 Arizona, 2 Tampa. That was Tay Hayes and Curtis Riley. Barry Nickerson, cornerback from Green Bay, coming to the Vikings, signed as unrest. And then Evan K. has been signed from Atlanta. Yes, I remember. Yep, I heard we had gotten a tackle to kind of compete for a job, see what happens, what the hell. Quentin Poling signed to New Orleans. And then Janarius Robinson was the last Minnesota Viking draft pick signed on May 19th, so 5 days later than the others. It is what it is there, though. Pretty cool sign to the Vikings. Again, significantly smaller draft class than last year, because last year was a little bit crazy. It was like 14 guys. This year, closer to like about 6-7 guys here coming in. Yes, 7. Yep, that's what I thought coming in. Much more reasonable when you think about that at the end of the day. So those are the transactions. Twitter is complete at Purple Mafia Show. Now let's go to Facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. The most recent episode of Purple Mafia. Let's see. I usually get a comment or two there, and I appreciate it. Also, someone shared it. Thank you so much. I'll go see who it was, and it does not show it because they're like, no, you don't get to know, buddy. Yeah, I guess I don't. Leland Albertson out of Iowa says, sweet. Again, that I'd released the show. And you're a great guy. Thank you very much. Gerald Spring, Nebraska. Also awesome. Says, just made my week. Yep, and thank you so much. Mark Carlson says, thank you, Joey. Looking forward to listening. And he says, hey, Jason, J. Mason Carlson, get the download. And then J. Mason responds with, no, I'm kidding. I'm making that up. Wouldn't that be funny? That would suck, but it'd be funny at the same time. Vikings alter Kirk Cousins' succession plan after losing out on Justin Fields. And, of course, that would be Kellen Mond. Declan Goff of Score North compared him to it's not really a comparison. It's like hoping he could become like a Dak Prescott type of player. The mobility and the arm strength. He wasn't the most accurate guy, and he wound up being really good. He wasn't as highly touted. Neither was Kirk Cousins coming into the draft. Kellen Mond, the name was out there. But, of course, he wasn't a first-round pick. He just wasn't. And, well, we'll see. At least it gives us a chance. There's a possibility there's something going on there. Kirk Cousins was not a first-round pick. He was taken in the same draft by the same team as RG3. It was like, okay, he's absolutely the starter. He's a future star for this team. And then a couple of years later, it was, you like that. And RG3 was not going to be quarterbacking the Redskins anymore because he was too damn injury prone, and he wasn't that great either, actually. Sorry. I was saying, dig this. This was from Kurt Hallmesser on Twitter. This is an image from Score North, ultimately. After Minnesota traded multiple times, the Stephon Diggs trade is now complete. The Bills received Stephon Diggs and Dane Jackson. Okay, I'm glad to know they got Dane Jackson in the deal. The Vikings received Justin Jefferson, Kenny Wilkes as a defensive end. Okay, Cameron Bynum, that's pretty cool. Potentially on a California cornerback. Janarius Robinson, who could be very interesting defensive end, and Zach Davidson. That's the tight end, of course, out of Central Missouri. Might end up being a spectacular trade for the Vikes because, see, trades take time to officially get completed, to germinate or whatever the word is, to settle, completely settle. That's probably the best word. And you look at all the different draft picks. No idea what we're going to say with Kenny Wilkes. We'll see. I'm not sure about that one, but who knows? Same with Dane Jackson. Janarius Robinson, we'll see. Zach Davidson, well, maybe. Very interesting. And, of course, Justin Jefferson was spectacular last year, and he's got all the potential in the world. Imagine if he started the first 2 games of the season with the Minnesota Vikings, or at least got a couple snaps in that game and such. It would have been great. And there's the Cherry Burns death there. Again, May the 12th. Only one comment, but it was from one of the best people ever. That would be Mark Carlson out of Iowa. He says, this is the saddest news. Oh, man, they just don't make coaches like they used to. Rest in peace, coach. Isn't that the absolute truth? They don't make coaches like they used to. It's the absolute truth. And I'm very happy to be drinking this purple. See, I was just in a purple mood today. I just finished listening to Purple Daily, a little 23-minute conversation with from Score North. I don't know why I'm giving them a shout-out, but I will, just because, I just like it. Declan Goff and Judd Zolgad talking about Kellen Mond and all that. And then I got the purple Waterloo grape mineral water. It's just, I was in a purple mood today. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I got to get on air. I'd been thinking about it, and I had a little time, and quite frankly, I was getting bored to death. Sometimes when I have days off, I get bored. And it's like, what the heck? I need to do a Viking show. It's like, I would regret it. Like, I have nothing going on, and I'm not doing the Viking show? Come on, Joey. Get on air. Do the Vikes. Get on air and do the Vikes. They love us. They love us. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Here's the schedule. Yep, and I kind of went over it. I came to a conclusion of either 11-6, 11 and 6, and it's now 17 games, which I'm just, I don't know, or 10 and 7. We'll see. I'm going to probably go over it again in the preseason. I'll go over it now, too, for fun. Steve Cole says, go KC, so not sure what's going on there. Must be a Chiefs. Yeah, he's a Chiefs fan out of Pringmar, Iowa. Well, I mean, good luck to the Chiefs. I was happy with who won last year, no offense. But if they're playing the Steelers, I'll cheer for them. I don't like the Steelers very much. Sorry, Chris Porter, if you happen to be listening, or any other Steelers fans. I'm just not much of a Steelers fan. I'm sorry. I kind of liked them a little more this year, though. Obviously, if it's the Packers, I'll go for the Chiefs. Yeah, I'll go for the Chiefs. I don't hate the Chiefs. I don't know. God, they were cocky last year. Ugh. They gave me a sour taste in their mouth, some of them. And I really didn't like some of their behavior, especially Honey Badger in the Super Bowl. Oofda. He bugged me. Mark Carlson, let's get to the point here. He says, I can't say I have any expectations for the team right now. Looking at the schedule, though, we have a home opener versus Seattle. Maybe when the game is over, they can take all these protesters back home with them. Oh, yeah. And Twin Cities can get back to normal because with the way things are now, I won't be coming to any games. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been a mess. It's been a mess, all this protesting and such. Freedom of thought. Well, I'll just leave it at that when it comes to political conversation. Freedom of thought. Yep, absolutely. Regular season. Yeah, geez, we're going to be starting on the road, of course. There will be a preseason this year, most likely, with fans in the building. They're not saying about the time yet, but the regular season is scheduled. It could be August 13th to 14th-ish. Denver Broncos. That'll be at home in U.S. Bank Stadium on Channel 9. And also all the, Fox 9, basically, the main Fox channel on network television. for most people out there. Denver Broncos. Again, that would be Gerald String's second favorite team. Preseason game number 2, August 20th or 21st, Indianapolis Colts. That'll be a home game. And then preseason number 3 will be against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium on the 27th or 28th. All again on Fox 9 or KFAN or K-Talk radio. For FM or AM, of course, the radio will be the same the entire way. Week 1, Sunday, against the Cincinnati Bengals on September 12th. On the road, I think that's a win. I'm not sure if Joe Burrow will be 100% back, ready to go. I think the Vikings should be able to win that game. It'll be quite interesting, but Vikings should be able to take care of business, and if we don't, I don't know. The next Sunday, again, that first one will be a nooner. The next one is the second wave of games at 3:05 against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. I don't know. Arizona started really strong last year, didn't finish strong. They'll probably start strong again. I'm going to say loss. So Vikings 1-1. At home, Sunday the 26th. At home, Sunday the 26th. Another afternoon game, 3:25, all on Fox here. The first 3 weeks will be on Fox because they're, I just call them Western Conference NFC games. Seattle Seahawks will finally play in U.S. Bank Stadium instead of in frickin' Seattle. CenturyLink Field is what they call it there. Win, damn it. Just frickin' win. Win. Stop losing to these bastards. Now we can't say, oh, they always schedule us on the road. It's not fair. Okay, we're finally playing them at home, so frickin' win. And the Vikings will frickin' win, damn it. If it's one play, one lucky bounce, squadron left, squadron fly, whatever the hell it is. If you need Ahmad Rashad and Tommy Kramer to get it done, go ahead. Otherwise, just win the game. Vikings go to 2-1. Cleveland Browns come to Minnesota Sunday. Wow, we don't play a whole lot of... the schedule gets weird later, though. It really does. There's a lot of Sundays all the way up until December. It's all Sundays. Ain't that the darndest thing? Well, it'll make it easier for me for the most part, except for the late ones. Those are tough sometimes to do the show. Detroit Lions, that's a win. Home game for the Vikes. Cleveland Browns first. I think the Vikings should be able to win that game against the Browns. It could be a tough game. It could be a tough battle. So could Seattle. But the Vikings go to 3-1. Vikings then go to 4-1 by beating the Detroit Lions. I think the Vikings go into bye week with a 5-1 record because Carolina doesn't have a whole lot going on right now. Unless you think Sam Darnold is the real deal, which I'm not convinced he is. That could be one of those weird trap games, but I think there's no excuse for the Vikings in that one. You got to win 5-1. Just pile up those wins while you can as you head into bye week. That was October 17th going into October 24th, which would be, again, bye week. Dallas Cowboys on Halloween night, NBC. Home game for the Vikings. You could go to 6-1, quite possibly. Could go to 6-1, quite possibly. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but again, when you look at their upcoming schedule, it's hard to be optimistic moving forward. It really is. I will say 6-1, believe it or not, though this could easily be a loss on Halloween, and the Vikings have lost a lot of games on holidays. I will pick a loss. Vikings go to 6-2 at the end of the day. Say 5-2, pardon me, with the Cowboys. At Baltimore on November the 7th. These are all Sundays again. That's a loss. 5-3. At Los Angeles Chargers, that's a win. I'm not trusting the LA Chargers just yet. Again, Sunday, this is a 3:05. The Halloween game was at 7:20, so Sunday Night Football. We often struggle in that situation. The Vikings won last time we were in that position with the Cowboys at home. Actually, that was a road game. Why do I have a feeling, though, they're going to return the favor? The Cowboys might end up having an awesome year this year. That's why I have a feeling the Vikings lose that one. But we will beat the LA Chargers. So that gets us to 6-3, if I remember correctly. Yep. And then we play the Packers at home. That should be a win. 7-3 for the Vikings. That's a nooner on Sunday. Cool. Usually the Packer games are at later times and such, but not that time around. A nooner. November 28th, that's San Francisco. That reeks of loss. Just reeks of loss. 7-4 for the Vikes. At Detroit Lions should be a win. I think the Vikings sweep the Detroit Lions again, which will bring us to 8-4. Home game versus the Pittsburgh Penguin Steelers on Thursday Night Football. Why shouldn't we win that game? Why shouldn't the Vikings win the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Steelers are tough. They're dangerous. Depends on the Vikings cornerbacks, I guess, because, Roethlisberger, who's never going to retire, even though he talked about it 10 years ago, kind of like Favre. And then he'll suddenly retire and then resurface with the Philadelphia Eagles or something. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen there. It's the strangest thing. But he literally talked about retiring about 10 years ago. It's just kind of funny. Similar to Favre that way. Vikings really should win that game. Seriously, win that game. That's all I got to say. Though, I put the Vikings at 9-4. Monday, December 20th. Merry Christmas. Loss. Chicago. Monday night football night game. Vikings lose in Chicago. So that would get us to, 8-5. For the LA Los Angeles Rams. Why do I have a feeling I'm wrong about this? Yep, 8-5. Yep, Los Angeles Rams. The Vikings then, there's 3 more. That's perfect. Los Angeles Rams at noon. That should be a win. Los Angeles Rams at noon should be a win, but it might not be. That's one of those in-betweeners. It could be a loss very easily. Depends on how ready to go that Rams team is. Matthew Stafford has had some great games against the Vikings. He's had some lousy games against the Vikings. They've had a good defense. They've had a not-so-good defense. It's a team that's kind of all over the place. They played well late last year. They made the postseason and then just didn't do much. And Jared Goff obviously was disappointing. We'll see how Stafford does. See how great Stafford is now. He's got a real chance at something there with the coach and the offensive weapons. He has a chance to beat his divisional foe there, his former divisional foe throughout his career. And really derail our chances to have some kind of a playoff run or playoff appearance or anything crazy like that. I'm going to go on a limb and say Vikings win. Yeah, Vikings win, believe it or not. That'd make us, 9-5? Excuse me. Yeah. 8-5, 9-5. Something's missing here. I'll have to back up, I think, because there should be an extra game. Say 9-5. I don't think we beat the Packers. That'd be 9-6, and then Bears would be, 10-6. So obviously I'm missing something. I think we beat the Bears at home in the season finale. We almost always win that one. 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, 6-3, 7-3, 7-4, 8-4. Okay. 8-4. Okay, it's because of the Steelers game. I didn't count that one. 8-4, 9-4. You beat the Steelers. 9-4. Yep. 9-5 with the Bears. Vikings somehow get past the Rams. 10-5. Don't beat the Packers on the road. That would be 10-6. And then you beat the Bears. 11-6. So yep, that was what I was coming to. 11-6. I feel optimistic. Good, strong offense. Very strong offense. Should be a very improved defense. This and that. Hopefully Clint Kubiak is allowed to be somewhat innovative and Zimmer doesn't keep him stuck in the Stone Ages too much. That would be greatly appreciated. But I think the Vikings finish 11-6 at this moment. We'll probably come up with a different record, obviously. Well, maybe we'll end up being the same after the preseason, for them when we get into the season preview, early September. Late August, early September next season, as things get rolling. Of course, we'll probably have a catching up episode in August or July. Who knows? Maybe there'll be more news, and I'll just record another show sometime in the summer before we start getting into the traditional tying up loose ends deal. But that's the prediction I have right now for the schedule. Should be cool. There was an official statement from Bud Grant about Jerry Burns. He says, I met Burnsy at Iowa when he picked me up from the airport when I was visiting down there, and from that point on, we started talking football and never stopped. We were on the same page a lot. When I went to Winnipeg, I'd have him come up as a guest coach. Our friendship grew over the years, and we became very close friends. So did our families. When I got the job in Minnesota, I talked to him about coming here, but he had a contract with Green Bay. The first year I was the Vikings coach. The first year I was at the Vikings, I coached one guy short. I was holding the job for Burnsy until he could come the next year. Wow, that's pretty cool. He was a very astute football mind. He could see things on the field immediately. He was as important to my career as anyone I've been involved with. His coaching help, friendship, loyalty, family. He brought everything to the Vikings he had. I'm going to miss him. Man, I'm sure he has. I'm sure. And yes, Bud Grant was saying he was literally crying before he called in to Dan Barreiro. He joined Dan Barreiro during that time. Crazy stuff. But yep, he was finally done crying and able to join the show. Must have been a really sad day for Bud Grant. So major condolences there. the Mike Hughes trade that took place. The comments here again on the Facebook page. Brett McCarthy says he could never stay healthy. Yeah, Mike Hughes, I agree with that. Tanae Brown, Brett McCarthy's out of South Dakota, by the way. Tanae Brown out of New Zealand says, I wonder if he's going to be fully healthy again. Pretty much gave up on him for free. Will be interesting to see if he sticks with the Chiefs. They could use the help. L'Jarius Sneed is the only corner of theirs I really like. I hope the Vikings can sign another corner for depth, and we just might from the Chiefs. But I like who we're starting on both sides with Patrick Peterson and Dantzler. Could be extremely interesting, and of course you still bring in Mackenzie Alexander as well. Very exciting at the end of the day. And there it is. The Vikings have made an offer to Bashad Breeland moving forward. No comments on that section. We'll look at Breeland here very briefly. He was taken in the 2014 draft, 4th round, 2nd pick by the Washington football team. Of course, they were called the Redskins at the time. He is 29 years old, is Bashad Breeland. He had a couple of interceptions last year, 30 solo tackles with the Chiefs. He's had only two. He's had 2 pick sixes throughout his career. They were one with Washington, one with Green Bay, as he played only 7 games with the Packers in 2018. That's what he was with in between Washington and Kansas City. He had a pick 6 that year. Pretty cool. He's kind of been in and out of the lineup with teams and such with some injuries or postseason, I guess. Oh, yeah, he had postseason games as well with Kansas City. Got to the conference final, and then obviously, he won the Super Bowl, won the ring in 2019, and then in 2020 got back and did not win, unfortunately for him. At the end of the day, interceptions, he's had 14 over his career. He had 2 in his first year, 2 in his second, he had 0 in the postseason game, but 3 in his third year. Pretty cool with Washington, and only 1 in his last year there. 2 with the Packers in only 7 games. 2 with the Chiefs in 2019. 1 in the postseason in the Super Bowl. Actually, that was a big one on Jimmy Garoppolo. One of the ones that helped the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Ultimately, messed up Garoppolo because it was a pretty close game. And then had 2 interceptions last year. Definitely not all he's good for, obviously. He's good for a lot of things. He can even return kicks on special teams. He had 71 total tackles in 2016 with the Chiefs, 81 in 2015 with the Chiefs. Played a ton of snaps during the course of time. He's played many snaps throughout the league, throughout the many seasons he's played. He's kind of a depth guy at this stage, but still would get significant minutes, obviously, significant snaps, time on the field. At very least, though, a valuable piece, and he could easily start. He could be a backup, whatever it is. Some people believe the Vikings have made a 1-year offer of some kind, heading in Breeland's direction. No idea on the dollar amount, but he's seeking a multi-year deal to stay with the Chiefs. We'll see what happens. It'd be quite funny, though. The Chiefs just acquired Mike Hughes, so maybe we'll end up with Breeland. Might end up being a nice little kind of a trade for the Vikings. We get a 6th-round pick, and then we have the ability to sign Breeland. So might end up working out just fine, as long as he doesn't cost a fortune. He'd be number 21, or he was at least with the Chiefs. You think of Patrick Peterson, number 21, with the Arizona Cardinals. Apparently he's not going to be that with the Vikings, though, in Patrick Peterson's case. We'll see what happens. Nothing's happened yet. It certainly doesn't mean he's coming to the Vikings. I wish he was, but I'm not overconfident he's going to wind up on the Vikings at this stage. But it could happen. The fact that nothing's happened is kind of, it's a little bit telling, unfortunately, that it's probably not going to come, but never know. Things can happen. Patrick Peterson would be starting at the moment, along with Cameron Dantzler, like we're saying, and such. Probably we'll see, again, Mackenzie Alexander play that nickel corner position. So it's going to be cool. Going to be cool. That's the slot corner. That's what I'm trying to say. The slot corner position. Vikings defensive line should be pretty good at the moment. We'll see what happens. Armand Watts, Michael Pierce. Michael Pierce is going to be at the starting left defensive tackle. Delvin Tomlinson, Stephen Weberly, Daniil Alexander, Jordan Brailford. We got all kinds of depth there. And then, of course, the draft picks. We'll see how they turn out. They may end up being studs as we move forward. With that said, I think that should about wrap things up at the end of the day. Should about wrap things up, of course. Hope all of you are having a good spring, and as we head into summer, the humidity really picked up this past week for us in the Midwest here, upper Midwest, well, basically the whole Midwest of the United States. But it's going to get better, I guess, on Tuesday. That's the good part, at least for some of us. Some of us it might not, so we'll see what happens. Hope all of you continue to have a good spring, and, well, hope you enjoyed the little mailbag emptying here today. I figured, why not? I think it'd be a fun idea, and I'll probably have another one of these in a couple of weeks here again. Why not? You never know what kind of news is going to pop up, or I just want to start reminiscing about something. It was fun to reminisce about Jerry Burns, even though unfortunately I didn't watch the Vikings fully back in those days. I wish I did. But I watched some, and of course my knowledge and history over the years of Jerry Burns was, getting up to par, so I could at least talk about it on Purple Mafia today. With that said, please do write a positive rating for Purple Mafia on Apple Podcasts, Audible, or Stitcher. Those are the 3 applications that allow you to do that. Other ones, for some reason, there's just no review section right now. Maybe there will be, or there is, and I don't know about it. That type of thing. But if you could write a positive review, I'll greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'll guarantee you some kind of a star, and I'll thank you so much on air, and this and that. I'd love that. It only helps the show so much, makes it look more attractive to potential listeners of any kind. Please tell your friends about the show if you could, and don't be afraid to call in, like Mad Martin has done many times. Dave Hickey's called in. Would love to hear from him again if you'd like to. Mark Carlson, would love to hear from you. Any of you. Black Space Gaming. Yep, all you got to do is create an audio submission and share it / email it to me. All you got to do in that case is open any free voice recording application out there. And of course, Brent Jacobson's the other one. Absolutely. Come on, Brent Jacobson. Love to hear from you. And others that haven't called in ever before, call in. Just do it, damn it. Again, it's not a phone number. It's an audio submission. Open your smart device. Open the free voice recording application. Every smart device has one. And you can always download one, too, off of the App Store for free, I'm sure, obviously. Just open it up, press record, treat it like a phone call, hit stop, save it, and then share it / email it to Paladinolive@yahoo.com, Paladinolive@yahoo.com. It will be in the show description. Final thing and very important thing, the Vig It application. The Vig It application is affiliated with the Purple Mafia show, and I appreciate them very much. They're coming out of Pennsylvania. You can post about your picks and see what others are saying about games. It's social media for sports bettors. Vig It betting leagues, a month-long betting competition to see who's the best sports bettor over the course of a month. Free-to-play sports book, bet free coins, win real prizes. So that could be a national thing, kind of overall. They're free coins. You're not using real money. There's great information available on Vig It, on the Vig It like line and movement, where the public is betting this and that. So it's always there. And it's not using real money. It's using play money, kind of like cryptocurrency, even though it's not real cryptocurrency either. But it looks like cryptocurrency. It's a V with 2 lines through it. So like I was saying, Bitcoin before, it looks like other possible cryptocurrencies that are out there. There was one that had that V, and I can't remember what it was. It's kind of funny. It looked just like the Vig It app logo. There's VetChain, but that one is just a V by itself. Shoot, I wish I could see it. They're out there. There's a lot of them, a lot of cryptocurrencies. But no, please do join Vig It. And if you do, when they ask for a referral, it's Paladinolive. Paladinolive. That only helps the show as well at the end of the day. Any funds that would be made off of that would go towards improving the Purple Mafia show one way or another. If it be it a new laptop, which would probably be a good thing at some point. Really appreciate what this laptop has brought me the last 6 years or so. But 6 years is pretty old for a laptop at the end of the day. That's just how that goes. With that said, God bless all of you. Take care, and we will talk to you next time.